It, the new movie based on the Stephen King novel, well, at least half of it, was released over the weekend, and over the last few days, it's become a bona fide hit. Like, everybody's going to see this movie, which is great to see, a horror movie become so popular. And, it's great that we all still love horror movies, love to be scared, especially by clowns, fucking clowns, terrifying. So I saw it a few days ago. I wanted to share some thoughts on it. First and foremost, I want to say spoilers in this review, so if you haven't seen the movie, or don't know about it, don't watch this video, or watch it, come back, whatever. Another thing I should say, I haven't read the novel by Stephen King, but I have seen the miniseries, so I have a general idea. I had a general idea going into the movie, what to expect. And here's the thing about it. Everybody knows how this movie begins, right? So the kid, he's in the raincoat, and he sees the clown in the sewer, and he's like, "Come down, we all float down here," blah, 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 and he kills the kid. But not a lot of people can, say off the top of their head, how does it end? I don't know. Well, they grow up, the kids in the movie, they grow up, and then they fight a crab monster or something. It gets kind of silly. Anyway, I don't know. That's kind of where I think maybe the fair choice in, I guess, presenting this as two movies. Maybe they'll create kind of an original story and go for a trilogy. But here we just get the first half of the novel, or the first half of the miniseries, or what have you. I guess you could call it more of a readaptation than it is a remake, because it is, it is a compromised version of the novel. It's half of it. That said, it's kind of I've noticed some ironies, I guess, in watching the movie. First being that for something based off a Stephen King novel, the man has a way with words, very eloquent, and creates very great and memorable dialogue. The movie, to me, the weakest portions were the scenes of dialogue, were the character interactions. I know not everyone agree with that, but what I would say is the absolute strength of the movie is the visual side of it. There are some excellent visuals in this movie. It's such a great looking movie, so scary looking. It really is, and nightmarish. Really, really superbly done in that sense. It's like a horrific silent film almost, where you don't necessarily need the dialogue or the story to kind of follow what's going on, which I thought was interesting. So it's like walking through a nightmare, which I loved, that visual part of it. Another kind of ironic thing, I guess, and where, I'll criticize the dialogue a little bit and the character interactions a little bit. I don't know, kind of like an ironic thing. There must have been studio notes. There must have been a goal in finalizing this movie during making it. I can't quite kind of put the timelines together, but there must have been something like, okay, make it like Stranger Things, which the irony in that is that, Stranger Things was inspired by Stephen King, and very Stephen King-like characters, like with Stand By Me, and a great many other things. Stranger Things, paid homage to, or ripped off, however you want to put it. So that's kind of, an ironic thing. But here it's, I guess in America at least, an R-rated movie, where the kids are allowed to have a little bit more potty mouths. So you hear the kids saying, like, "What the fuck is that thing? Oh, your mother's vagina is stinky," or whatever. I don't know, whatever you want to say. These kids say it all, and they talk like kids, which is great. But here's where I think that portion of the movie, didn't satisfy me that much. And it's that, these kids, they're also plucky and likable. And, that's one thing for me, too. Again, I've seen the miniseries, though I hadn't seen it in a while, and it was a little bit hard to keep track of them. There's too many damn kids in this movie. I said it one time, I've said it a thousand. I don't really care for kid actors in movies. You see them in horror movies all the time, so it's hard to avoid. But here the main characters are kids, right? So thankfully none of them really do a bad job. They're all quite good, actually. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that they kind of bog them all down to the nitty-gritty kind of stereotypes of the kids. They all have that one thing you can say about them without even really having to know their names, right? So we have the stuttering kid, We have the germaphobe kid. We have the Jewish kid. We have the fat kid. We have the black kid. We have the girl kid. So I think that's all of them. So, I mean, they're kind of bogged down in those personality traits and embraced quite well, almost to the point of annoyance. Again, I haven't read the novel and I don't know how, I don't know, annoyingly repetitive, like, say, for example, the stuff with the germaphobe kid was... oh, wait, there was another kid. There's the glasses kid. Anyway, glasses kid. Thank God none of them were, like, shared traits. Like, there's just the one Jewish kid. Or maybe others were Jewish and just not practicing. But anyway, they kind of embrace those stereotypical traits of the kids. And they're all plucky and, you know, scrappy little scamps, I guess. I don't know, but they're likable, and that's great. And they have the funny dialogue. That's kind of where I think the movie loses me in some parts. The movie's almost a little too funny, which, I mean, in that mindset of, say, trying to make it a little bit more like Stranger Things, in that mindset of, okay, we have this essentially two strong brand names. One, we have It, Pennywise the Clown. Everyone knows kind of what that is, a scary clown movie. That is what It is. Stephen King. Obviously, it's based on a Stephen King novel. That's a big name still. I mean, slap Stephen King's name on it. It's going to make some money. Even to this day, and this is very much proof of that. And so, I don't know, it tries to appeal to as wide of an audience as possible, I'd say. And we have to have, I don't know, heroic character moments and things like that. And the kids have to be really likable. And of course, the bully's very hateable. We can kill just the one kid at the beginning. We can kill little Billy, Raincoat Kid, and we can kill some of the bullies and all that. But, you know, we need to have these plucky kids survive, and of course that's how it is in the novel, because, of course, they have to survive to be in the second part of the story, which we're seeing one half of a larger story here. So, I mean, that, to me, it felt like a little washed down when you just kind of think, say they kind of removed a lot of the more cutesy kind of humor, and even, like, just some of the dialogue, if they cut it down a little bit, focused more on the visual, nightmarish side of things, I think this would have been an absolutely relentless horror movie. Really nightmare-inducing, which I'm sure it already is for quite a few people. And again, there were some fair and scary moments to it. And again, great visual scares, as opposed to just boo, pop up and go boo, because we have, of course, get a lot of that in the movie. There's a lot of scenes where we see Pennywise kind of just running at the camera, and things like that. But in other ways, we see, you know, Pennywise's lair in the sewer. There, we all float down here, and that's something, of course, that the miniseries from 1990 couldn't quite accomplish with visual effects. And we see things like the whole basement flooded and the kid in the raincoat and he's turning all zombie-like, and we see Pennywise coming out of the fridge, I think, and he's like all contorted and like flexing his body, which is all scrambled up and things like that, which was great. And there's one part where he's dancing and his whole body's moving, but his head stays in place, which I thought was kind of cool. So there's a lot of great visual stuff. And I think if they wanted to take a little bit more of a risk, I think this could have been one of the scariest movies ever made, because the source material is there. The iconic, well-known character is there in Pennywise the Clown. But, I mean, they wanted to make it somewhat audience-friendly. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to walk out of a movie feeling good, I guess, not like we don't want to walk out saying, oh, man, I can't believe Pennywise killed all those fucking kids. Though maybe it would have been an okay movie that way. It would have been pretty scary, I think. But for what it is, I mean, these are my criticisms of the movie. If I want to just give it an assessment of what it is and how I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think it was very entertaining, had the scares where it counts, and I think the iconic clown, they had to get that right. Everything in this movie, you can hire all the greatest kids, you can hire kid actors who will go on to be great thespians and win Oscars or whatever. If you fuck up Pennywise, you have no movie. And I think the casting in Bill Skarsgård or Peter Sarsgaard or Stellan Skarsgård or one of the Skarsgards is actually Bill Skarsgård. Yeah, Bill as Pennywise. I think he's great. And I don't want to get into the whole thing. Oh, is he better than Tim Curry? It seems, I don't know, petty to do that. I think they're both great, and I think he did a great job. And he has a little bit more dialogue to work with, which, if you do compare it to the miniseries, you'll notice right away. It's like, wow, in that miniseries, Pennywise says like two things, and meanwhile, like Pennywise in this new version, he's saying quite a bit. So I would assume it's a little bit more faithful to the novel in that sense. But I enjoyed it. The kids were good. Great visuals. Again, if I can, beat that point to death. And I don't know. I think it heralds well for the state of horror as it currently stands. Though I would like to see things a little bit more scary and devastating. But then again, we have this movie, Mother, coming out soon from Darren Aronofsky. So that might be something interesting. But anyway, I'll close with this thought, which is a sad thought when you think about it. I'm watching this movie, and being the fan that I am of Nightmare on Elm Street and that series, I couldn't help but think, man, if they just made the Nightmare on Elm Street remake like this and had a similar approach and a similar tone and style and sense of scariness and of the main villain, in this case Freddy Krueger, as opposed to Pennywise, how great would that have been? And I think maybe, with these kind of nostalgic 80s movies, and bringing back, the summer kids, I guess is the best way to put it, the summer kids of the 80s. I think that might be the way to rejuvenate Nightmare on Elm Street. So that's just kind of my thought. And by the way, there's a nice little homage or Easter egg to Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, which of course came out in the summer of 1989. We also see marquees of Batman and Lethal Weapon too. So very 80s. You can tell by the fashion. You can tell by all that. And if I can close once again with another thought, that's my Nightmare on Elm Street thought. What Stephen King's novels have always done quite well is not just explore evil in the form of a scary monster, but in the form of people. Very real, graspable evil, like we see in stuff like Carrie, like with stuff like The Mist, and certainly with It, and with bullying and all that, and with child abuse too, which I thought was interesting. You can kind of take, she's the one girl in the movie, the Molly Ringwald girl. There's some interesting stuff there that you can take out of that. She's getting the pads and the tampons in the grocery store, and there's the whole part where she reaches into the drain, and of course blood gets everywhere. The father walks in, he sees no blood, and it's kind of like a way of he's not recognizing her growing up into womanhood or something. I'm sure you can take stuff like that, but there's very real evil in the world, like her father, like the bullies, like whatever Pennywise is or was in a human form, if anything at all. But there's goodness, and these kids, as on the nose as it is, with their great plucky nature, it's an affirming movie that these losers, these outsiders, they'll find each other and they'll support each other, and they'll be there for each other where it counts, and they ultimately all save each other, and they reunite in adulthood. But we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer for that. Well, not so much 27 years, but maybe 2. So I enjoyed this version of it. I'm a little skeptical going into the second one, though, because again, it's the first half is much more interesting. So I don't know, but I look forward to seeing who they cast as the adult versions, which usually is kind of opposite. You kind of think, okay, we have this big actor. No, let's get this no-name kid to play the young version. But now we have the complete opposite. We have all these no-name kids. Let's get the adult version. Maybe people famous, maybe not. I don't know. So Yeah, if I had to give it a rating, I'd say give it a 7, maybe. It was very good, but not great. Not like this defining one, like gotta see it horror movie, but definitely something you should check out if you haven't already. I mean, the movie's made like $500 million or whatever. I don't know. Check it out and sleep tight. And thanks very much for watching. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Visit Dare237.com. And until next time, I'll see you later.